Okay, welcome to my video, attempt number 3 at recording this video, and my first video on this channel itself. This video I'm going to be describing my health anxiety, hypochondria story, and what I've been through, my experiences, my really big struggle with health anxiety, and literally being mentally ill to the point of not being able to function. But I'm going to be talking about that because it might be useful for other people to know what I've been through. It might be useful for other people to learn from what I've been through, and kind of, I guess, I can help people in a way. It's also quite therapeutic to me to make videos like this where I discuss my own mental health, because it's a good chance for reflection and it's also spreading awareness for mental health issues. So yeah, without further ado, I guess we should get into this. I have made this same video before on my old channel, but I've decided to give it another go and give it more of an updated try. The old one was pretty good on my old channel, but for this one, I feel like it'll be useful to be a bit more updated. I'm still going to go over everything, but yeah, so I'm going to go start with that. I'm going to actually start with my kind of history. I've always kind of suffered a little bit from mental illness in various degrees from a young age. Very, very minor at the start, but getting on to like the end of secondary school, high school, that was when like the issues became more apparent. Pardon me. I always kind of had generalized anxiety and stuff like that. But the health anxiety did come a few years after that, so I feel like it's my general anxiety mainly manifested into health anxiety. But yeah, that's just basically what's happened. I did actually stop going to school at kind of the end of secondary school because of my anxiety. At the start, it wasn't health anxiety, but like I said, kind of manifested into that. But yeah, that's just some background on me and what my like situation was when I started to develop health anxiety. Anyways, so the earliest kind of health anxiety related thing that I can remember was me being very, very worried about appendicitis. So this was probably about half a year before my kind of big episode of health anxiety struck. Basically, one day I had really bad like stomach pains, and okay, so stomach pains, experienced them before. I've had them before. I don't know why I decided to be worried, but I started like worrying. So I started Googling my symptoms, and I kind of came to the conclusion that I had appendicitis. I mean, it's not exactly that serious, but it does require medical attention and surgery to fix. So I think in most circumstances. But yeah, so I was like, shit. I went to, well, I started kind of panicking about that. Definitely had a panic attack or two about it. At the time, didn't really know what I was experiencing, but now that I look back on it, it's just typical kind of health anxiety, my first episode of health anxiety. So I went to the walk-in center, which is it's a bit like A&E or the ER, but just kind of not as severe, and like just for minor stuff. But I think that's the right place to go for appendicitis anyway. I don't really know. But yeah, so after that, went to the walk-in center. They checked me over, gave me a blood test, done physical checks and stuff. I did not have appendicitis, and nothing really came up in the blood test. So I was like, cool. A few days later, my stomach stopped kind of hurting. I did have some issues with eating and drinking, but I think that was all anxiety related. But kind of all cleared up for about half a year. Half a year later, we're going to fast forward to, and I just ate my dinner, as you do, standard stuff. Came back upstairs, probably going to go play some games or something. But I started having heart palpitations. Now, if you don't know what heart palpitations are, though most health anxiety sufferers have probably had them. It's definitely one of the most common symptoms. Heart palpitations are basically when it feels like your heart's like skipped a beat, or like there's a pulse through your body, or you feel like a huge beat in your heart. Now these are harmless and never really indicative of anything serious, but I had never really experienced them before, and they were in very quick succession, so it kind of threw me right out of like my zone, kind of. So yeah, so I started getting these heart palpitations. I decided to Google it. Looking back, that's a mistake, because, you know, Googling and health anxiety aren't really, they aren't really the best of friends. But at the time, didn't know what health anxiety really was, didn't know what I was experiencing. So I Googled it. Ended up on a page about heart failure and heart attacks. So not good stuff, not good stuff. This kind of led me into a panic attack. So my heart started racing more. I kept experiencing palpitation after palpitation. I went downstairs to my parents. I was like, shit. I was thinking that I was dying. Like, honestly, I thought I was going through like a heart attack or something. Something that I thought I was experiencing a few times, actually, but we'll get onto that later. So I was terrified. My heart was beating so fast and I was having a panic attack. At the time, didn't know it was a panic attack. It's actually crazy, the symptoms of anxiety and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to make a separate video about symptoms soon at some point. I do have a video on my old channel about that as well, but I might move it onto this channel. Might make a new one, but yeah, that's getting a bit off topic. But yeah, crazy what symptoms can do. Anyway, panic attack. My heart was beating so fast. Heart palpitations went crazy. I felt kind of sick as well. So after I kind of rode the wave of panic, I took a nap and went to sleep for the night as well. Woke up the next morning, relatively symptom-free, but I still felt pretty weird. Like, I felt off. So I went to the doctor. He ordered an ECG and blood tests. Both came back completely fine, all healthy, all good. So yeah, that I'm physically healthy, though I didn't really believe the results because I felt like something was up. So after that, I just started developing chest pains. Heart palpitations, kept going. And these chest pains were like every single day. Every day of my life was chest pains and also heart palpitations. I remember quite clearly trying to go to sleep and like myself like almost on the edge of sleep, but then getting a heart palpitation and waking myself right up out of sleep. So this was where I was spiraling really badly. I was almost convinced that there was something wrong with my heart. I went back to the doctors a few times to discuss it. They ordered a few more ECGs and stuff, but that all came back fine. And I also got a chest x-ray to check my heart size, which came back completely fine. So all the testing has proved that I don't have anything wrong with my heart, but I was experiencing symptoms like crazy. Like I said, chest pains every single day, heart palpitations every single day. It was crazy. I felt awful. I felt truly awful. Thinking back to it, it's probably the worst position that I've ever been in terms of my health anxiety, but these fears about my heart, they didn't really stop. It moved on to fears about cancer and stuff like that, which is actually fairly common for people with health anxiety to worry about, but speaking about it, it seems a bit kind of out of the blue. Yeah, speaking about it seems kind of weird actually, but I was like, my health anxiety just manifested itself into like just crazy thoughts and spiraling thoughts that, oh shit dude, I have cancer. I don't know, I think at first I thought I had lung cancer, second I thought I had stomach cancer or some shit like that. Bowel cancer was a big one for me. I started experiencing crazy symptoms, especially stomach pains, and I also have IBS, which was diagnosed after I went to the doctor about my stomach issues. But I wasn't convinced it was IBS. I thought I had bowel cancer. And speaking about it now, it kind of brings me to a weird situation in my mind. Like, in retrospect, it sounds crazy, but in the situation, like, it felt so real. I was basically almost convinced that I was, like, dying. And at that time, my symptoms were really, really bad. And my mental health was at the worst it's ever been. Because of all of this going on, it also started to give me really bad depression as well. So when I was depressed, suicidal thoughts were a little bit seeping their way in, just a tiny bit, but that was only briefly. Never really had any strong thoughts about the matter, but my life was awful. I was falling into really bad coping mechanisms. At the time, I was also in an unhealthy relationship, which didn't help. I was constantly checking myself. I had so many, I had lymph nodes up, which I still have up, but I got tested and they're fine. But I was convinced that the lymph nodes were lymphoma, stomach pains, bowel symptoms, stomach pain, just feeling sick every single day. I could barely eat. My appetite just went. When I tried to eat, I would feel sick. If I smelt food, I would also feel sick. Why did my monitor turn off? I would also feel sick. Sorry about that. Yeah, so generally not good, okay? So just kept getting new symptoms and stuff like that. At the time, I was accessing talk therapy for just general anxiety, which I had for a bit. Now, for me personally, talk therapy didn't really help my health anxiety. So I decided to get re-referred into the system and met with a psychiatrist who put me through to CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, and I also started medication. So CBT, along with medication, for me, I noticed basically within the first few weeks that I was getting a bit better. Now, it was slow progress at the start. I'm trying to think back because it was actually a little bit of time ago now. Yeah, I don't want to bombard you with information. I'm just trying to get the key points out. So yeah, I accessed CBT initially. I did feel benefits of it. It's very objective focused, and it can it's basically the recommended therapy to try for health anxiety. So whilst I was accessing CBT, I was also taking fluoxetine, and I still take it today. Let's see if I can get my bottle. So fluoxetine oral solution. This is Prozac or Prozep. I take the oral solution because I've always had problems swallowing tablets, but I was on that. I started taking that. Initially, it's a small dose that ramps up a bit, and that also helped. I found the CBT to be very effective whilst I was taking it, and I feel like both of them were necessary for me. But like I was saying, CBT is very objective based, and it will get you into a more healthy frame of mind. So started CBT, took medication, slow improvements, like I said, and a few hurdles in the road, a few times of spiraling, but generally I was improving. I was experiencing less symptoms. I was getting out the house more. One of the biggest issues for me was also getting out the house. I just wouldn't get out the house at all. Still something I slightly struggle with, but I'm getting a lot better in that regard. Basically, slow improvements. It's like a lot of people say baby steps, but I like thinking of it as kind of building a wall. So you lay a brick every day, then you'll start having a wall, and then the more bricks you lay, the stronger the wall will get. That's my kind of analogy. Is that the right word? Analogy for kind of the baby steps thing. I don't like the term baby steps, but that's just me. So yeah, it took a lot of effort and a lot of commitment for myself to get out of unhealthy habits. I was Googling every day, I was seeking reassurance every single day, and it's one of the hardest cycles I've ever had to break. It's probably, like I said, it's been like the worst time I've ever had when I was experiencing health anxiety, and yeah, it's a little bit difficult to talk about, but I'm getting there. What was my train of thought with that? Sorry, I've lost my train of thought. So yeah, like falling out of bad habits. So for me, worst things were seeking reassurance and Googling, which of course aren't good. At the time, there was a small Discord server for the subreddit of health anxiety, which at the time wasn't a very healthy place for me, because I would just constantly seek reassurance. I was like having panic attacks still, like quite a bit, but CBT kind of dragged me a bit out of the safety mechanisms I had. I learned a lot about health anxiety through CBT, and I also learned a lot about health anxiety through the internet and resources. I think it's pretty essential that you have to understand how health anxiety works to treat it. For me, a key video for me is top 10 rules to crush health anxiety by the Anxiety Guy. I'm not sure if I got the title right, but I will link it in the description. I also linked it in the other video I made on my old channel. That video was good for me to kind of understand health anxiety a bit better. But yeah, CBT was very objective based, getting me out of unhealthy coping mechanisms. And when you start breaking down the unhealthy coping mechanisms, that's kind of when the improvement will take place. That's when the health anxiety cannot function. It kind of got to a point for me where I was like, dude, like my life was awful. I had to do something about it. So I really dedicated myself to CBT. So I ran the full course of CBT, all the sessions that they could provide me, I took. And like I said, improvement. I feel like that was the most major like step that I took, was getting that initial help, and that's kind of set me up for full-time recovery. Again, I've had ups and downs and hurdles, but since CBT, it's got easier. I've had less symptoms, and I was still in a bit of a rough spot because I was very isolated. Health anxiety still kind of there a bit. Sometimes it was severe, sometimes it was pretty chill, but I was still kind of isolated, and I still had symptoms. I was still like occasionally dipping into unhealthy coping mechanisms. So essentially from there, I kind of applied what I learned about health anxiety through CBT and the online resources I've looked at, and kind of applied that to continue recovering. So before, you would definitely struggle to get me out of the house. Now I leave the house at least once a day. If I don't have anything to do, I just go for a walk. I take a walk for like 20 minutes, get me out the house, clear mind. But one of the other biggest steps, like, so for me, the two biggest things ultimately was medication and CBT. So they're the two essential things for me, which I felt was very important for my recovery. Then I joined this kind of club for, it's not really a club, it's like a youth group for people suffering from well, it's kind of for people in tough circumstances. And through that, I met some friends, and that really got me out the house. And I also had like the staff there really helpful to me. So for that, I like used that place to get me out the house, to meet new people, and to improve my confidence, and basically just improve my mental health. From there, I've had a lot of help personally through the staff, and like individually, like just from being able to go out and do stuff and have like also a safe place for it. And whilst I'm there, it's constantly, the point of the program is to constantly get us to like engage with stuff. So we're constantly being thrown out of our comfort zone and stuff like that, which is really healthy for your health anxiety. Couple of other things for recovery. I did meditation for quite a bit. I know what you're probably thinking, meditation, that sounds a bit daunting, but it's actually quite simple. Good apps for it are Headspace and what's the other one called? What is the other one called? Headspace and... Okay, never mind. I'll leave 2 links in the description to Headspace and the other meditation app I use. I don't know why that's gone out of my head, but meditation was pretty important for me. It really helped kind of gain control over my thought patterns to make sure my thought patterns weren't really spiraling and becoming unhealthy. But ultimately, a lot of it is down to kind of trying to understand how health anxiety works, how the process works, how the thought patterns work, and how to break the thought patterns down. Now, at the start, I was very skeptic of... Is that the right word? I think... Can my monitor stop turning off? I was quite skeptical, that's the word, skeptical about this. I thought, yeah, changing my thought patterns, that's not going to fix all of these physical symptoms, but really, I noticed, like, well, within a few weeks of applying everything that I've learned, I noticed a decrease in symptoms, and now I have a very dramatic decrease in symptoms and general anxiety at all. I have basically no symptoms apart from when I get maybe a little bit anxious, and in terms of health anxiety, I have almost no health anxiety 99% of the time. There's times where I worry just a bit, but right now, where I am now, is probably the healthiest I've been in years, in terms of everything. So, yeah. The key points that I'm trying to raise here is CBT and medication were very, very important to me, and learning how health anxiety works. Earlier, I mentioned about about the health anxiety Discord. Now, I am like the new kind of owner of the place, and there are admins as well on it. We took it upon ourselves to kind of raise that place up from quite a low activity, very unhealthy place to like a bit more of a healthy place. So there will be a link to the Discord server below and to the subreddit. They are quite useful places for support, but it's not a substitute for professional support. So that's there if you want it. I'm just trying to give me a sec. Good, I have to clear my throat. So I'm just trying to round off the video in a good way. It's been a little bit unorganized, this video has, but I've tried to cover all of the main kind of story and everything that I've kind of been through. Obviously, it's a bit rushed because it's like under 30 minutes, but I was struggling really, really, really badly, to a point of very deep depression. So now I'm a lot better, doing actually pretty decent for myself. So yeah, that's what I want you to take away from this video, is that it's definitely possible to recover, no matter like how deep into your health anxiety you are, how badly you're struggling. It's very possible to overcome it, especially with the right kind of help. So like I said before, top 10 rules to crush health anxiety video will be below by the anxiety guy. Discord and subreddit also below. That's basically all I can think of for this video. As I said, it's been a little bit rushed because I could speak about my experiences for hours, which I guess this is kind of what the YouTube channel is about. But yeah, I can't really think of much else to kind of round the video off with. Like I said, take away the things that I've mentioned from the video, and hopefully you can subscribe and stick around on the channel for my future videos to come. But yeah, that's about it for this video, I guess, and I'll see you in the next one, hopefully. I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, like I said, a bit unorganized, and it's just me kind of talking for a while. I do have notes, but I don't read off a script because it's not really what I like to do. But yeah, this has been my health anxiety and mental health story, and I hope you guys are doing okay, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.